Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hi. We're gonna just be with them.
We're just talking to you like you're an invisible person, just for a moment.
Yeah, because last week, oh my gosh, we can tell them.
Oh yeah, we can tell you.
We shouldn't tell the podcasters,
You
but we
lot.
can tell them.
Yeah.
You lot.
You lot.
You lot out there. You lot.
Yeah.
Because the moment we started rolling into a regular story last week, all audio that we're feeding into our microphones was bad. It was like the entire time.
Yeah, from start to finish, there were just lots of odd things happening last week. So
there's 3 of them on. So what we're going to do... Hello, everybody. Thank you. This is our studio audience, if you will. We haven't started the official podcast yet of Stories from the Standing Room, episode 9. We've actually... Yeah, I know. But we sure do appreciate you. And we couldn't do it. Renee is on. She's the one... Oh, Rico Suave.
Oh,
she's Rico Suave.
Yes,
I
see.
Yes, Renee Reuter. I hope I'm saying that right, Reuter. Okay, let's do a little level check here, guys. What we do is we try to get quality audio for the uploads for the podcast.
Yeah, so we just do a test at this time.
What has happened here? Oh my God,
I
it leave you alone for 1 minute. It's all
happening?
In a hole. Oh my God.
I don't know. What's happening?
Yeah, I
It's
don't
going to
know.
go cross-eyed.
Hang on. Okay.
Okay.
No. Yeah, it's like doing something strange.
I can't
Let's do
see
this.
how my eyes are going to go.
There you go.
There we go.
Neo voice.
1, 2, 3, test.
This might be why. Let's do that.
Yeah,
Let's pull that. No one cares. It's fine.
There we go. Okay.
No
1,
one
2, 3,
cares.
testing.
Yeah, that's much better. 1, 2.
1, 2, 3, testing.
1, 2, 3. Can you guys hear us okay? This is for Facebook. That we want you to be able to hear, but the main audio is going into a computer that will be uploaded and matched for YouTube. So let me do
We have to do these little technical tests first, and then we start the show.
With our studio audience that we love very much.
We love this. We live you. We love you, studio audience.
We live you.
We live you, audience.
Live you, and we love you.
We live you lots.
We do. We love you a long time. Okay, now I'm listening. Now let me. Sounds amazing. There's no reason it should be right.
Well, let's go with it then.
Okay. Okay, so listen. No dramas this week. No dramas. Let's start rolling. Give me another level. Let me see.
Level check. 1, 2, 3, testing.
See, 1, 2. It was fine last week, so I'm just going to set this down.
Yeah,
and let's just
those
hope.
off your ear rolls and see what happens.
I don't know. My ear rolls? I've never heard you call them ear rolls.
Ear rolls, they're like eyeballs.
Eyeballs and ear rolls. That's when that sounds like a restaurant or something.
Eyeballs and ear rolls.
Eyeballs and ear rolls. All right. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, like what's inside your McDonald's burger.
It does. It does.
It is what's inside McDonald's.
Honey, that's true. It's what's left over. That's why, thank God.
Anyway.
Oh, my God. Okay, I'm thinking, are we missing something? Is there something we're missing?
You're here.
I'm here.
You must be ready to go.
All right. Well, hello, welcome everybody. Hi, Harry. Hey, Brian's with us from Texas, and we've got
Texas, Brian.
Dorothy is with us. We're getting ready to start the actual podcast. So before we do, we want to say thank you, because we love you. Thank you, because without you holding us accountable during the show, we would be all over the place. If we were left to our own devices or vices.
Device.
Yeah.
Devices.
Well, you see what happens when we're in bed together. Oh my God. Okay, anyway. All right, if you're ready, you want to do clap? Welcome, everybody, to episode 9 of Stories from the Standing Room.
Hello.
Are you ready, husband?
I am ready.
Okay.
I hope.
This is podcast number 9.
9. And
let me make a note of our time. This is a really big thing. We started out as just a little fart around thing here in the standing room, but it has become a global
little
blip. It's really a blip. It's not huge yet. We do want to say thank you and welcome to our SoundCloud fans and followers. Thank you so much, because as they come on and they bite on, and they've got sometimes some funny audio and stuff, but they're sticking around.
Yeah, we do apologise, SoundCloud people, about the last couple of weeks. There have been technical problems. Hopefully we passed those now.
Yes, and so iTunes also, thank you for your patience as we weed out all the drama. YouTubers, they've tolerated us on the couch in the dark. They've done all
back in the day,
my! We say back in the day, honey. It was May.
It seems like back in the day, like it was 1892.
I know. And so what we've been doing is every week we do an episode of history, folklore, ghosts, and facts, and well, it's just a little bit of everything. Yeah. So we do need your ghost stories. Thank you for starting to send them in. Twitter. Also, we're at Standing Room HRH on Twitter. We want to say thank you. Over 200 high five again. 200 high. Okay, there we go. No, we did crack 200 on Twitter, which is really amazing. A lot of that was your work. Did you know that?
I didn't know.
It's a good thing. Yeah, it's very good.
We've only been on 2 weeks, so that's good.
We have only been actually on Twitter just for a couple weeks, so we want to say thank you and welcome to our Twitterverse. And so we've got our... Oh my God! I forgot the biggest announcement. Storiesfromthestandingroom.com.
Oh, the what's it's done, isn't it?
Yes, Chuck is back from vacation, so it is up in skeletal form, so you can send us...
Skeletal form, haha.
Oh, get it? That's funny, husband. Listen, the stories from the standing room stories, as you send in your ghost stories, you can send them to either Chris at...
storiesfromthestandingroom.com
or Anne at...
storiesfromthestandingroom.com.
That's
you
right.
try and say that. That's why you got me saying it.
That's why I made you do it. But thank you, Chuck. So yes, Anne at storiesfromthestandingroom.com or Chris at storiesfromthestandingroom.com. So we are slowly, it's really the birth pains of this little baby show.
Yeah.
But it is ghosts and folklore. We need your ghost stories. So if you've shared them with other podcasts, we don't mind. We're not jealous.
No, we're not
we
jealous.
don't mind.
We're happy to work with everyone.
So, so we actually see everybody as basically we're all in this together.
Yeah.
Yeah, trying to figure... And we don't know the answers. We're just trying to figure things out with you. We're sharing them.
I mean, all the things we're going to put forward, particularly tonight, are actually just potentials or what people have put forward as theories. We're not saying things are right or wrong or truth or not. We're just putting forward... stories and theories which people have put forward.
Yeah, and things that people want to discuss and talk about and learn because we don't know crap. We just like to be able to explore it and figure it out with you.
Yeah.
Yeah? What's up with your mic, honey? Your mic wants to, like, make love to you. What's happening with it? Stop it. Okay, it's got to literally stick out. So there you go. Okay. All right, so would you like to start off with a ghost story?
Yeah.
Shall we?
Yeah, let's.
All right, let's go ahead. Today's Stories from the Standing Room, our episode is on...
Ghosts of animals.
Animal spirits.
Intuitive and psychic behavior of
Yes.
That type of animal stuff.
Yeah, and so also we were really thinking about it because remembered the story about the Romans that were on their horses and the man that saw the man walking the dog that was a ghost. So we wanted to know, how does that work? What's going on there? They love that. They love
It's
that.
like headless horsemen on horses. They really need them because if they didn't have a head, they wouldn't know where they were going.
So
they need a horse to know where they're going.
That
Because
makes
a headless
sense.
horseman would just ride straight into like a nearest tree.
You would need your horse if you
need
were headless.
your horse if you were headless.
That's totally true, and I never really thought about that, but now I have. So I will do that later on too. I'll be thinking, how does that work? So animal ghosts, we've had some submissions from you. We want to thank Mr. Beerbaum, Michael Beerbaum. He is such an amazing contributor early on. We want to thank you. We've got a first story up is called Queenie, and we go ahead and start with Mr. Beerbaum's story, which is really what inspired us to choose this as a subject matter. So, are you ready, husband?
Yeah.
Do you want to give him some eerie music? Just make some scary sounds. Okay, that's good. We need to get some background music. We really do. Okay, wait. Mr. Beerbaum asks if he remembers, he was my drama teacher in 9th grade, and he was a very tolerant and amazing man. He still is, but back then, extra tolerant. And
I'm sure he had to be.
Oh my gosh. He says, I know you remember coming out to the ranch near Pozo, which is out in San Luis Obispo County.
Yeah.
He says, I don't know if you remember Queenie. She was an ancient collie that belonged to our landlords. They found her abandoned alongside the road in a pitiful state when they lived out there. They took her home, nursed her back to health, and she flourished there. But they moved out to Sea Canyon, which is out towards Avila Way. Okay. So that's far away from Pozo.
Well, yeah.
And they took Queenie with them, but she hated the new place, and she was pining for Pozo. So they asked us to take her back out there. She loved it, and we loved her, and life was good. And she ended up taking on some wild critter while defending their livestock one day while they were away in town. And they found her holed up in the back in a little shed barn, and one of her back legs was badly damaged. They took her to the vet, but she was too old and too injured to survive the surgery to amputate her leg. So, heavy-hearted, they made the decision to put Queenie to sleep. They held her as she passed, and the vet took care of her remains. Well, a week or so went by, and we were missing that old dog. He was up at the upper pasture, checking the fence, when he heard some barking and looked up, and there was Queenie. Queenie was tearing over the top of the next hill, chasing a jackrabbit, just as happy as a puppy. There was no mistaking her grin. I've got goosebumps and distinctive markings, and none of our neighbors had a collie. I saw her again on several occasions, usually out of the corner of my eye, and always romping at a dead run. She was literally in her heaven.
Sweet.
That is a sweet
Do you think the
story.
rabbit knew it was being chased by a ghost, or do you think the rabbit was just...
Maybe it was a ghost rabbit.
Maybe you
I don't know, but it's a sweet little story.
Yeah.
Isn't that
Very
sweet?
sweet.
that
It's very comforting.
It is very comforting, and I think that's not just a Rainbow Bridge imaginary thing. I can't see that being a. I know this man not that anybody who sees it goes. We've seen stuff. We've seen and heard some crazy stuff. So I don't know. As far as there's no way that humanity from the beginning of time could be making up the exact same stories. There must be something to this. So I do believe in Michael Beerbaum's credibility. And I do believe that what he saw is what he saw. What do you think?
I also think that he's animal ghost stories are very common, but they maybe not as exotic or sexy as human ghost stories. And they're often very simple and they're very matter of fact, and they're very much about the animal in some way trying to convey back to their human companion. I went to the word owner because I don't think you can own any living thing, but their human companion, that they're okay. It's just very simple. Just, I'm okay. I'm here. It's all right. I'm still linked with you. Yeah. I'm still around.
So it's kind of where you get to a question of dimensions, though. Was Queenie in the physical dimension, or was that just a visit in the physical dimension to comfort a grieving pet parent?
Or was she projecting something that she knew Mr. Beerbaum would see? Was she projecting herself?
Oh, how sweet!
Into him to say he would see her.
So
she may not have been in this dimension, but she had a link with him, which is something I think I'll mention later about the links. But if you have that link, maybe you can project that message into someone, and the message is read as seeing them, but actually what's happening is the animal spirit is just projecting into the human, I'm okay, and the human understands this and translates it as seeing the animal.
I think you're onto something there. I think it's the connection and the love that they shared, the bond that they shared, that created
the kind of nuclear reactor that drives it.
Yeah, the experience for Mr. Beerbaum. So perhaps if we were there, we might not have seen Queenie.
No, I doubt it, because the link is, some people do see animal ghosts, but usually it tends to be the person or the people that the animal has a link to. Not always, but often. It tends to be linked to the person.
So you think the emotional connection, perhaps, yeah?
Yeah, the emotional connection, I think, is important. I think that's the connector.
Have you ever seen a ghost of a pet?
I don't know. Can't remember.
Okay, because you've had several pets, and you love animals, and animals love you. So as far as pets, have you ever seen anything that you would think like a ghost cat, or... I know you had the bunny rabbit.
Well,
the bunny rabbit.
The bunny rabbit. I'll talk about bunny rabbit. But I mean, the thing is, you get so used to having, if you've got dogs and cats and animals around you, you get used to them, the patter of their paws or walking past you, or them just in the corner of their eye. So when they do die, sometimes you think they've walked past you or leaned.
I
don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that's because you're used to it or it's because it happens. I don't know. So I couldn't definitely say. But the bunny rabbit thing was interesting.
Tell them the bunny rabbit story.
Well, I was driving down the road, and you must remember that roads in England are narrow.
It's big. They're teeny tiny.
They're windy, and they have deep where we're in Devon, so they're deep hedges. So they're like about 6 or 7 to 10 feet high.
Hedgerows.
Solid hedgerows. And I was driving down the road where I couldn't stop, and I was just driving down and got the radio on, blah, blah, blah. And I just knew, I can't even put this into words now. I knew there was a rabbit. I knew there was something. No, I didn't know there was a rabbit, I don't think. I knew there was something that needed help.
What time of day was it?
Middle of the afternoon.
Okay.
It was light.
Yeah,
It was light. So I braked and put my flashes on, the indicators, and then ran back to the hedge. And I'm not thinking about this. I'm doing this on autopilot because I'm just driving down the road.
Right.
And inside the hedge where I go to, there's a little ill rabbit, about so big, just tiny little baby
Bless
rabbit.
him, how sweet.
And it was obviously in a really, really bad state, and it was dying. And it was just on its own and scared. So I knew where to go. So and it wasn't like I was looking in the hedge. I went straight in, put my hands in, and picked it up.
Yes, I see.
And then it was a little rabbit. And then I couldn't do anything about it because I knew it was dying. So I just basically put it down my shirt and kept it warm. And it died about 2 hours later when I got home.
But he wasn't alone.
No, it wasn't. I just kept him there and tried to kind of love on him for that bit. But so that was quite interesting because I had to brake and run back. And I didn't know what I was running back for. It just kind of overtook me. And
so do you think perhaps there was a connection of compassion? That maybe you sensed the rabbit, or did the rabbit send out a signal to you?
Well,
or was it both?
It would be both, wouldn't it? It would be like a radio signal goes out, but you need it's transmitted, but you need to be able to pick it up, so it needs to be connection.
But you do have a connection with animals, like what we're looking at. Our Facebook friends know about Jonathan and you are the bird whisperer. I've never seen anybody when we rescued a dove a few years back, which we called Doveless Fairbanks Jr. He literally, husband would, I'll be doveless, okay, and you'd be you.
No, I go nine nine. We go nine nine nine.
His eyes would close and he'd start to go
nine.
off to sleep, and his head would drop. It's the craziest thing. That.
I don't know.
Get him to go to sleep.
I think if I was going to describe it to anyone, it's like the external outer part of you that comes out to about here, where you feel, where your external energy is.
Your human
aura. Ghost cat, I can feel a ghost cat. I don't know. I just know there's one around.
Brock, for our
but
podcasters,
it's kind of if you kind of open that, and then allow the bird into that space somehow. I can't explain it. To open that external layer to the bird or the animal.
And so today, when Jonathan was standing on you, this is a wild seagull, a baby seagual named Jonathan that we are looking after, who's been kicked out of the nest, and he has taken over the back garden and back of the house and my studio.
Yeah.
How did you when we were standing on you? How were you communicating with him?
I was just looking. I was just kind of being inside him and allowing him to be inside me.
Yeah.
It's not like thought, but just opening up.
It's a feeling, a sensation, a frequency.
It's like a tickliness.
Tickliness. That's a good way to describe it. Okay, so when we like these ghost horses that were with the Romans that were in York, when this fleet coming through that you talk about, these Roman soldiers coming through, were their horses not with them?
Yeah, but it would like, I suppose that is a kind of that again is like it's almost like film footage.
So that's okay. Well, we talked about that. Is it live or is it Memorex?
Yeah,
so
I think it's the Memorex thing. So it's the whole thing is recorded. The carts, the clothing. Because I suppose if you just ghosts are wearing the clothes that they recorded in, as it were, like in the shadow.
Right, but and also with the man who saw the medieval man walking a dog over and over again in the exact same part of the forest, but actually was walking very close to him, which is in a few episodes back. There was a dog in that. It appeared white, like misty white, but it was. Is that a recording, or is that the dog's consciousness? What do you think?
I don't know. Probably a recording.
Yeah, you think?
I think probably a recording. Hard to know.
What about Queenie then?
Well, I think that's different. That's a situation where there's some kind of communication. It's an emotional communication
between a human and the spirit of the animal.
Yeah, the two are communicating. We're the ones communicating to the other.
Well, there's something very special about we talk about, we are vegetarians, and every animal to us is just as important as any animal. Everybody, every being is sentient, and every being is worthy of love and comfort, and especially this one is Brock is here on the table with us. Yeah. Can they see him? Yeah, they can see him. They can see him. Okay, they're companion animals, and cats. We were talking about this. You were going to tell us about. They were worshipped in Egypt as gods. Now, our cats would love that if that was in today's world. Can you tell us a little bit about the history?
Well, yeah. I mean, there are two major. Well, there's one. The two major deities in ancient Egypt: the Sekhmet or Sekhmet, and the Bast.
Yes.
So I think I'll concentrate more on Sekhmet. Sekhmet or Sekhmet is the lion-headed god, goddess.
Yes.
Even though she can be isogenic, which means she can be between male and female, but usually she's portrayed as a woman because she is like the essential elements of the divine female. She has all these things. The story of Sekhmet is her father was Ra, the sun god.
That's why she has a sun.
The solar disk is above the head because she's created by her father, and she was created in the same tradition as the Hindu tradition of Durga becoming Kali when to destroy evil. The story is that the world was becoming saturated by darkness and evil. So Ra, the sun god, created a daughter, and he created her in the form of a lioness because he needed someone to fight the evil. So because the lioness is the most ferocious when she's looking after her kittens, so it's the idea of the lioness.
And also the strongest, the king of the jungle, the lion.
Well, exactly, the lion, but the lioness is the ultimate when protecting the cubs.
She is the boss. Have you ever seen the boss around their husband? You ever seen the lioness boss around their husband? Yeah, she does.
It's true.
Pat him around there.
I know, it's like Wiki.
But it's just like Wiki, which is our female cat for our podcast.
So we have this divine force that was brought down in the shape of a cat, and you see.
Which is the face of a cat, the head of a lion,
and a human body. So, and in one hand she holds an anchor. In the other one she has an iris stem, and she's described. So only when she comes into contact with evil or corruption or bigotry and those negative emotions does she become the lioness who will kill. But she will kill. She is like a destructive goddess.
Yes.
There is that side of it. She's the wild side of nature, the wild side of the cat.
Yeah.
So, but she was very much worshipped, and there used to be a different. There's written lots of statues of Sekhmet. The priests who were associated to the order that worshipped Sekhmet would worship a different statue each day. And also, the statues of Sekhmet are always made of a really, really hard stone, basalt or whatever.
It's called diorite, and it's the hardest stuff. It's harder than, like, it's
yeah,
seriously
and
super
how it's
hard.
cut is really.
I don't have any idea. It takes lifetimes to cut one statue.
Many is diorite. Some of them are basalt, but you're right.
Yeah.
Many of them are
Diorite,
diorite. So it's very, they chose.
It's an extremely. It's harder than granite. It's just, and it's amazing to see the detail of the features. And I know you love Sekhmet. There's Sekhmet statues in the house.
I've always liked Sekhmet. I don't know why. Just whenever I see a statue of Sekhmet, there was another one, Bast.
Well, I was just gonna really quick before you move on to Bast. I wanted to mention that back in California, as a tour guide at Hearst Castle, there were these Sekhmet statues that William Randolph Hearst had collected. He had 2 full figure ones, and he had 2 busts.
Yeah.
So she has the head of a woman. Head of a cat, head of a lioness, and the body of a woman. But we never knew. We see one hand open, one hand closed on her lap. We used to say, that this is what we knew back in the 80s. Now, I'm sure that the information has changed, that these statues were purchased during the time after King Tut's tomb was opened. So literally a full diorite statue of Sekhmet that took millennia or hundreds of years to carve was $12,000. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
A full statue like the ones we see at the museum in London. So we said that she was the goddess of blood, death, war, pestilence, famine, drought, plagues. So she was.
Well, actually, she's the protector.
Yeah.
She's the mother.
Makes more sense.
And
that's
what she uses to protect.
That makes a lot of sense.
So it's his own. That is only what she unleashes against corruption and evil.
Good.
That she's not the goddess of those
I understand.
things. They're the tools. They're her tools.
Yes, good.
So,
against dark forces.
Corruption and dark forces.
And it was also said that she controlled the flow of the Nile, which would make sense too, because that's control of life that goes through ancient Egypt.
But also there's also a thing, because the Nile is seen as like the life force, and she represents almost like there is a theory that represents within Egyptian as like the yogic Kundalini theory, that she's the base chakra, the red, the kind of core primeval energy of the cosmos.
Of the Kundalini, yes.
Yeah, and it rises up through her. Yeah. And that was represented in the Nile, because the cycle of the Nile was similar to the woman's cycle, and it was all related to the cycles. And the cycle was very important to Sekhmet because she was a divine feminine deity.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So that's why it's related to the cycle of the Nile.
So she has the head of a lioness. So we're talking about it is about animal spirits, spirit animals, or even animals having spirit of gods. So the other god is Bast.
It's Bast. So Bast was a similar goddess. I believe that Bast was worshipped at a much earlier stage. She's quite an early deity to happen in Egypt. But again, she had she started off as being half lioness, half cat, and then she develops over time into being a full cat. And she was more of a household god in ancient Egypt, and there'll be shrines to Bast in the.
Is she the one with the earring?
Yes. So often the cat is just simply a statue of a cat, usually.
So a domestic household cat.
Because cats were seen as, it's not that cats were seen as divine, but they were seen as a shadow or a product of Bast. So that's why they were special. So that's why it was a corporal offence. If you killed or were cruel to a cat, it was a death penalty.
Well, they were sacred then.
They were sacred.
And you know what? They are so very special. And they are they rule the internet now, you know. Cat videos. There's a lot of cat lovers out there in the world. But it's too bad. Remember when we had our guest from Saudi Arabia? Cats were not. That was absolutely... We had
all
a
animal
house,
Africa,
all
yeah.
animals.
All
Yes.
animals
Oh,
were-
that was it was something that was absolutely very when we had a language guest that visited us from Saudi Arabia. Absolutely disliked cats more than anyone I
But
have ever
I
met.
think he disliked animals. He
But
disliked,
they don't have them in homes over there.
Yeah.
They don't have them in
they didn't
Saudi
have
Arabia.
animals.
They don't.
They didn't
And
have
that was
there
Yes.
seems there's very little emotional linkage to anything other than other people. But
Yeah.
that's
That was
different from the Western tradition of how we link.
Do you know what a group of cats is called? You know how you have a gaggle of geese and all that. Can you
A
imagine?
problem.
It's we call ours a gay pride
Yeah,
or
ours is
the
a gay
brat
pride.
pack,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Do you know what, if you literally, you know how you have like I don't know, like a herd of cattle and a murder of crows. Do you know what cats? If we literally have one, and we've never called it this. Can you just take a guess?
No.
A clouder.
A clouder.
Uh-huh.
That's interesting.
A
Isn't it?
clouder of cats. That's what you have if you have a bunch of them. So cat ladies have clouders. Clouders.
Clouders.
Isn't
Oh,
that
there you
funny?
go. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I
Never
know.
heard the
So it's a
word.
little bit of interesting. Go ahead. You were going to carry on with the you after Bast. Were you going to go ahead and talk about temple cats?
Yeah, I just briefly mentioned it. But I mean,
Yep.
people live, particularly with dogs and cats, two species which we've been living with across the planet for at least 10,000 years. And one of the aspects where cats were used would be in temples, because they were recognised in ancient societies as having an ability to be able to see other dimensional beings.
The cats were.
The cats were, so temple cats in Thailand and Egypt and other places, they were kept within temples because the priests would watch them, because they knew that cats were particularly receptive to seeing kind of the spirit world or higher forms, and they would, because that was the world in which the priesthood was operating,
Yes.
they were used. I think they still are in use like that in
Well, they
Thai
are in our
temples.
bathroom last week.
Yeah.
Brock. Remember what ours did? Brock, our cat was able to see something that we cannot.
We
and
cannot see.
animals do that. You were talking about the earthquakes. What was that?
Yeah, before I was getting to the earthquakes, I was reading a story the other day, and it was someone who was saying that their cat had been staring for some months at one spot and then looking along the ceiling, and it just kept looking and doing this. And only after 3 or 4 months did they start hearing these phantom footsteps that took this route. So it was almost like it was an energy path, or something was happening up above on the floor above. And it was their house, so they knew it wasn't like an apartment. It wasn't like people upstairs. There was
Right.
nobody else in the house. But the cat was always watching this thing, this one speed going across, and only several months later it became audible to a person's steps walking across where
That's
the cat used to
interesting.
look.
So they knew it first.
Yeah, so the cat kind of sensed it first, which is often the case.
And what we
No, I was just going to say, you asked me another question.
I was talking about Brock the last week when you were in the bathroom.
Oh,
You
yeah.
said he was looking at something
And then
and
you
he's
asked me
watching
something
something.
else. You asked me-
I was asking about the earthquakes, but do you want to talk about that? The earthquakes? About how you're talking about how the animals sense the earthquakes,
Yeah, I mean, the Chinese government actually use Animal Watch.
right?
So they actually have a phone line, and that's how they project. How the Chinese have been projecting this, doing this for several decades now. What they do is there's a computerized system, and if your animals or your pets start acting strangely, you phone up this line, and it triggers it. You don't have to speak. You just phone the number, and he can start plotting.
Oh,
and
that's
if it plots
interesting.
a map, if these dots start cropping up, there's an earthquake warning going out.
Really?
And it saved hundreds of thousands of lives, because that's how they put the earthquake warning. Before geographically you pick it up,
The
animals pick it up.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's because people phone in and now it's a computerized system, they can start seeing, they suddenly see these red dots going, and they can more or less spot where the earthquake's going to happen. So they use it to put the earthquake warning.
That is extremely useful because they also do that with tidal waves too, don't they? They kind of just
the
know.
tsunami.
How do they know? How did they know? Do you know?
Well, it's said that, I think it was in 2004, was it, when they had the Christmas tsunami? The animals across the Indian Ocean, I mean, some of the animals, there were water buffalo, I can't remember which side of the ocean they were, and they all looked up at the same time, and they were staring towards the ocean, and they all started to stampede away.
Really?
And this happened across the rim. Elephants started moving, birds started flying, and people followed, villagers followed, and it's been estimated that the death toll would have been, well, certainly thousands, potentially tens of thousands of more people wouldn't have died if they hadn't have followed the animals. But they thought all the animals started migrating away from the ocean.
Yes.
So they just followed. They knew something was wrong.
Yes.
And it saved thousands and thousands of lives of animals and people because
So
they followed.
Many, their frequency, they're wired a little bit differently. I think that we could learn a lot from animals.
We could. I mean, there is if you think like an Alsatian or a German Shepherd, as you would say in the States.
What did you call it here?
Alsatian.
Alsatian?
Yeah.
Is that what you call German Shepherds here?
Yes.
Alsatian?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the name.
Well, that's
Like the
interesting.
Alsatian
Didn't know
Islands,
that. They like
they
that.
come from the islands,
Gotcha.
the Alsatian Islands.
Alsatian.
Anyway,
Matt.
they, I think their sense of smell is like 1 million times greater than a person. If you imagine 1 million times more.
No, I can't. I smell enough.
A flea,
pee in the
flea
house.
can jump to like 700 feet if it was a person.
That would be really cool. That would be cool.
Some of
great
those physical aspects they have to enable them, but there are many other aspects.
But you know, we also see them through our eyes, because we go on our five senses, and we think that they think like we think and see like we see and feel like we feel. Well, at least some people do, but all animals have little gifts that we need to pay. Like Botchkin, our Botchkin, for example, he's our like a Zen cat. He's very, very reflective, very insightful. But he can tell when somebody's upset, and he will come and love on you. He knows when you need it. How would you describe Botchkin to our viewers?
He's emotionally intuitive.
He knew before we were moving. He knew that we were going to get the house.
Yeah, he knows.
He knew. He went right into the moving box, didn't he? He did.
He knows all the stuff.
He does.
I think it's because animals have to exist. Animals have to exist in a much more fundamental state. I'm going back to like 1976, 77. For some reason, I'm going back in this explanation to Star Wars. Now, I was never into Star Wars because at the time, it's like I was so blown away by Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I was like, I can't be bothered with that Star Wars. It's silly. I thought great poster, great music, great opening shot, but all that silly flying stuff never did it for me. But apart from the idea of the Force, I think that's the best way to describe this. Literally, the Force is flowing through them in that kind of old Star Wars way, and that links them all. It links them into a much more fundamental, primeval force, which links them, because to survive they have to have that instinctive way of working with things. We
call it instinct. We don't even know what it is, though. We study the monarch. We think that our science today in 2016, we know everything. Now look, we know everything. And 20 years ago, we thought we knew everything. And 20 years before that, we know everything. Yeah. We don't know crap.
What was that percentage of like 50% of the known facts 30 years ago are now disproven?
Well, it's really ridiculous, because that's what they taught us in school. And so that's why when I give you that segment information, it's totally, there's way more. You're literally at your fingertips. You can have several master's degrees if you actually applied yourself within just a matter of weeks. Literally, the amount of information that's on the internet. You got to make sure you're getting the right stuff, but you can find out an amazing just bit of stuff. And what you're talking about, the Force, is one of the most brilliant ways to describe the divine without offending anybody. No one's ever been burnt at the stake for saying, "May the Force be with you."
No,
it's true.
It's true.
And that is a really, really nice way of looking at it.
And I think it's the word itself. To see animals as being intuitively responsive to the whole world, to other animals, to other living forces, because they're intuitively having to operate in the world. It's a matter of life and death. To survive and to eat and to do all the rest, they're intuitively.
Do you know what is really amazing? Living like that? We could learn like that, because they literally live for the moment, for the day. They're not worried about the bills. They're not worried about dinner. They're not worried about somebody being mad at them. They're not worried about what other people think, really. There is their own little hierarchy within some of the prides and things like that. But they're not tripping. They're not tripping on where their food's coming from. They're not worried about fighting with other, planning some kind of attack on the cats that are over in Florida right now. They're not doing that. Our clouder is not doing that.
No, and I think there's another thing too. I think and it's completely gone out of my head. So talk to
I'm
yourself.
sorry. No. Go ahead. You're talking about how do they know? Basically, was the
I was going to say that they potentially. I don't know what is.
Did it go?
I have to come back.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fine. We were also talking about Botchkin seems to know emotional things. He knows when somebody is suffering. He spent quite a bit of time with our guest who came last year and she passed this year, but he would not leave her side when she arrived.
Yeah.
She and he were literally together.
And he is in advance of things. He does know.
Yeah.
He knows when people are not going to be well.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not going to be well, he starts loving on you. Then you find out you're not well, or if you're
It's funny
not well,
that.
he loves. So he's very intuitively aligned to what's happening in the moment and in the future.
Yeah.
And I remember the point I was going to make, and I think it was about. Well, I know it was about clutter. I know it was about that the human mind is full of obstacles which stop us intuitively thinking. We create barriers. However, let's say if you're in a situation, you've got 2 or 3 seconds to save your kid's life. You will not. I doubt if you go on logic. When you're absolutely against the wall, the intuitive kicks in. And if you've got to make a decision, it will be the intuitive decision you would go for in a few seconds in that kind of situation. All the rest gets swept away. But in our usual lives, we are actually full of clutter, and they don't have that clutter. They're just responding to what they see and what they feel there and then.
That was a thing that was mentioned to me about the vegetarianism. They go, well, animals eat animals. And I go, yeah, but humans have the wisdom to make the choice not to. You can actually survive without eating meat. And you have for how many years?
40.
Almost 40.
Yeah.
I'm coming up on 4 and a half. So I was going to ask you another little trivia about cats.
What's that?
As far as eating.
Lots.
They do eat a lot. Oh my God! But they can taste certain things. But I'm going to give you a list of flavors and tell me which one that you think they can't taste. Okay. Is it salty, sweet, sour, bitter, or savory? There's one thing that cats cannot taste. Scientists, as of 2016, have done a test. Can cats taste salty, sweet, sour, bitter, or savory?
I'm guessing that the only one there which is actually more provable and more physical is salt, because the others are harder to measure, and salt you can measure.
Close.
So that's only a guess.
Second guess? What would you second guess?
I've got no idea.
Sweet.
Sweet.
They say they can't taste sweet things.
Oh, I see.
Interesting, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, but savory, surely that's out because everything in the house. And the good biscuits. This one picks the good biscuits out of the... Biscuits is a name for cookie or little dried cat food. They call it cat biscuits. But I wanted to also see, you had a few things you wanted to talk about the Wiki knowing physical things. So, for example, when she's able to... She has like... I don't know if it's a radar that bends, because she's able to, when she jumps on top of a table, if anything is on top of the table, out of her vision, out of her sight, and she can't... There's no other way, but she knows that it's not there. What is that?
It's like a radar somehow.
What do they have? Is it a radar?
I don't know. It's like a 50s sci-fi cartoon with a little thing coming up top of her head. I really don't know. But she seems to know when she lands. She knows what's going to be there.
She knows what's there prior to seeing it physically. So surely there's far more than we understand.
Yeah, intuitive response to what's there. It's hard to say.
And this one, you can see him in the video, is our dog cat. I'm sure some of you have cat dogs and dog cats, which means they are relating more to, canine, feline. Literally, this animal is a dog wearing a cat suit.
Totally, aren't you?
In every possible way, and it is the strangest thing. It must be the first incarnation as a feline. Yeah. Because there's nothing about this cat. Yeah. Except for the fact there's really nothing. There's nothing.
And I think I ought to say to our podcast friends and the people that were listening rather than watching, there is a cat almost attached to me at the moment.
Yeah. Yes. He's 24/7, 365. He loves husband. He gets jealous if I'm in the room, and he's in the shot right now for the YouTube viewers. This is Brock, our dog cat. In every way, he is a dog cat. So you had also a couple other things. You have Runty and Jonathan. You were going to talk about them just before I do our ghost story, which is about Rico Suave. It is a sweet little ghost story. It's a sweet. It actually brought me to tears, and that's Renee's story. I'd like to share that. But was there something that we?
I was going to say just really. I was going to talk about. We have been talking about domestic animals. But there are stories of all kinds of ghosts. But it does seem, if you think, well, it can't just. There has to be something that triggers the concept of a ghost, because like abattoirs and things would be all research laboratories.
We live next door to an abattoir. That is a
Be
slaughterhouse.
So haunted.
Yes, slaughterhouse.
So what is it that triggers this?
Well, real quick, can I explain the abattoir? Means slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
That's not something that is
not
an
any
American
longer.
thing.
I mean, historically, we're saying we don't.
But
live
next
to
door
one
to us, for 250 years, there's been a slaughterhouse there.
and there's no ghost animals.
I haven't seen
there.
any ghost cows or any ghost sheep.
So
I'm glad I don't
it
see any
is
ghost sheep.
something there which is maybe it seems to be it is the interaction with people which enable this particular sort of realm to happen for them. Because you're not really seeing wild animals, but you are seeing animals when they come into contact with
Humans.
people. And I think is that psychic, is that there is that link to. It doesn't matter if you're wild or not. As soon as a wild animal begins to interact with people as they grow, so there's also the theory of soul acceleration, where an animal's solar development will become further developed or developed at a higher frequency, because they cease to be in a hand. It's a bit like Jonathan the Seagull. He ceases to have to be trying to survive. He's not surviving on getting a little crumb here or a crumb there, because that's life or death. He can actually sit and wonder or watch or play in a different way, and he has that room to develop to potentially a higher level, because he's understanding. He is experiencing different forms of emotion than a seagull normally would, and he has the capacity to, or the luxury to be able to not to be. He knows he's going to be fed, so he actually can be within himself more, and maybe that triggers a greater development too.
Have more self-awareness, more self-discovery. Well, they say mineral, vegetable, animal, man, and then spirit. So I guess loosely speaking, that these are all evolving into the next one. So the ones that are closest to us, like Brock and Wiki and all these other animals that people bond with, are the next ones up for humanhood.
Yes,
some say.
Theories,
some say, yes. So that it very well could be, because you say they are evolving, because they are developing their own little personalities, their own. They're very close mankind's best friends. So yeah, how else would you be able to move up? And turn over and evolve and grow.
It's like the rapid increased acceleration.
Yes, that's true. So, and it's interesting because some of them are so kind, and the way that we treat them is so horrific. Dogs, they're on the menu in some countries now, and it's just hideous. And the love and compassion they will show to almost any human. Literally, unless they've been starved and beaten,
But even then, they will show more
they are
compassion
still
to
compassionate.
the human who
And
will be
so,
in that
therefore,
situation.
who's more human or civilized, should I say?
Yeah, the word civilized.
I think that we would not qualify. Humans would not qualify as being civilized. We don't act civilized. No. The domestic animals that we live with and the non-domestic animals, the wild animals, are far more civilized than humanity is. Don't you think?
Yeah, they understand the flow of where they live. They understand that the natural balance of their own world. They don't overstep things. And they're not able to either, but they don't overstep things.
And they don't. Maybe we need to return to the trees. We need to have a cleansing and let them take over for a while. Yeah. Are you ready for Rico Suave? Yeah. Is it time?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you sure?
Well, I've got a couple of other things.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say there were also. I remember the story of earthquakes, but also there's a story during the war. There were a lot of situations where people were, before the air raids used to go off, animals used to respond. Now, animals used to respond at a point when the planes were hundreds of miles away, but they knew before a raid was going to happen. So it was almost like the concentrated knowledge of the people who were taking the air raids were actually concentrating on the zone, and they knew they were going to drop their bombs, and the animals are picking these up. Because animals would start acting very strangely and peculiarly in the same earthquake-like things. Getting very stressed before an air raid, and that's often people used to react and start making themselves go to the air raid shelters before the sirens went off, because they noticed how the animals acted. See,
we need to pay attention to this. We need to keep paying attention to this and understand that it isn't just cats and dogs.
And interestingly,
it's every living thing.
There are other which are harder to explain, the V2 and V1 rockets, which used to land on London, which were basically high explosive, large rockets the size of a house. They were fired from front, and they would just the rockets just land on London. They take out like a block. But the animals, where they noted that animals used to know about 40 minutes before that one of these are coming over, and the animals, the ones who survived close to those sites, would become excitable or stressed at the time the rockets were being launched in France.
That's interesting. That is very interesting. So we should, like I said, pay attention. I think they are paying attention. I think science is paying more attention.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's that thing about the kind of the practical aspect of the Chinese, where they are realizing that if you just note the animal behavior, and they've got a computer that is able to use that, so people are.
Were you ever told as a child, like I was, oh, they can't feel like we can? That is such bullshit. Sorry, that is bullshit.
I would have objected to that.
God.
I would have never.
Oh my God.
Even as a child, I would have got.
Yeah, I did. So I go, no, that's not true. And surely they can. And the more that we pay attention, and we will beg them for forgiveness one day. We will wish to be able to go back and beg them for forgiveness.
I want to hear about little.
Oh my God, Rico Suave. Okay, Renee Reuter. I hope I'm saying that right. I asked her for the correct pronunciation. She sent the sweetest story. I asked for animal ghost stories. I think she's on there. Hi, Christine. Bless your heart. This is just a beautiful little story of little Rico Suave, who was a Chihuahua. Okay. I keep switching back between first and third person. I need to read these straight as they are written. Yeah. Okay, because I'm confusing people in our podcast world. This is Renee Reuter. Thank you for this submission. Back in 2001, I had a beloved Chihuahua named Rico Suave. Rico Suave. Did that not ever cross over here?
No, it didn't.
Okay, that was his name.
Italian or Spanish?
It's Mexican, okay. Spanish. Yes. She said I had a real connection with him and absolutely adored him. He would sleep with me at night on my right side, as close as possible. I became very ill with pancreatitis and was hospitalized for 2 weeks. I was in and out of consciousness and not really aware of my surroundings. And however, one night, my sweet Rico came to me and slept with me on my right side for 2 nights. I petted him and I talked to him and I told him how much I loved him. And I told him that I was going to be okay so I could come home and be with him. And on the second morning, while my husband was visiting, I thanked him for bringing my Rico to visit me. My husband became very teary-eyed and he just nodded his head. 4 days later, as we were leaving the hospital, my husband said, I have to tell you something before we get home. He explained that while I was in the hospital, Rico was sleeping on the couch, burrowed in a blanket, and our 16-year-old son had done what all teenagers do and took a running leap onto the couch, not knowing that Rico was in there, and accidentally landed on him. Terrible, I know. I'm sorry, she writes. As Rico only weighed 1.5 pounds. He's a little guy. This was not a good thing. They rushed him to the hospital, but they were unable to help him, so in order to not let him suffer, they euthanized my poor Rico Suave. My poor husband did not have the heart to tell me that my dog had passed while I was in the hospital, and had instructed all family and friends to not tell me as well. The 2 nights that my Rico had come to me at my hospital bed was the night my poor baby died, and the next night as well. My sweet Rico Suave had come to say goodbye to me, and my husband and I could not believe it. I swear on my children that I physically felt that sweet dog's body and his precious licks on my hand. Husband.
That's sweet.
Isn't that sweet? Yeah. He came to see her before he left.
Yeah.
Now that's not a memory. I mean, that's not
that's just that thing about just telling them it's okay.
Thank you, Renee, for that beautiful story. That is so sweet. Oh my gosh, it gives me tears. I think about the little love. He came and spent his physical time comforting her on his way out. He went to go see her. What do you think about that?
I think it's really sweet and very common.
Is it? Yeah, common.
I think it's really, really common for people to have these really important yet small interactions with this other way of being.
They are not soulless. When you look behind those eyes, surely you do see this beautiful spirit. Yeah, and cows too. That counts with cows
They
too.
want to chase you.
They do. I thought I was going to die that day. Speaking of
Chased
ghosts,
by
I almost was
Yeah.
made into a ghost that day. And we can say that for another story. We are coming up on our final bit of time. Husband, can you believe it?
No.
Already.
No,
Animal
no.
Spirits has come to a close next week. It is episode number 10 of Stories from the Standing Room. 10!
10.
Well, they have 2 hands.
Yeah,
And-
podcasters, I'm holding up all my 10 fingers here.
Yes, we do when it gets to 11.
Oh, I give up then. It's too hard.
Do you want to tell him about Willy Wonka? Come on.
Oh,
Please,
stay
please,
with it.
I'll tell him then. Can I just tell him you're going to be mad?
If it keeps you quiet.
Okay. We were talking about Willy Wonka in our promo this morning, and husband got mad a little bit because he said, they don't want to know that.
No,
I
it's
said,
just
Americans would want to know this. This is really interesting trivia because Willy over here is a nickname for for a man's private parts. There you go. Are you happy? Okay, and Wonka is a take probably on the term wanker. Now, I know that upsets you when I say wanker, but in America, wanker is not a bad word. Is
No,
it?
I just think, what's it got to do with animals?
Well, because you were sleeping like Willy Wonka.
Wow. I was talking about his grandparents. I forgot, yeah.
But anyway, I never
lost the
thought
plot
that. I
for
never
a
know.
moment.
I know we lost the plot, but listen, seriously, that is great trivia. That is very valuable.
Yeah.
Willy Wonka is like the full Monty, kind of a little tongue-in-cheek, like
Yeah.
Monty Python means
Yeah.
big, huge,
Yeah.
long snake. So seriously, I never knew that.
No.
British humor, husband.
No, there you go. There you are.
Willy Wonka, Willy Wonka. Okay, stop. Anyway, sorry. Did it kill you to tell you that you're fine? It's fine. Okay, so next week, tell them what we're gonna do. Since you're so crappy,
I've forgotten that.
Just tell them.
I've
It's
forgotten.
communication.
Oh, it's communication.
Shut
I've
up.
forgotten.
Yeah.
I think what we do next week. I
They
can
liked
remember.
that. See?
We are doing communication next week. The aspects of how people may or may communicate with other dimensional beings, other dimensions, channeling,
Yeah.
messages from the dead, all of that kind of thing. Speaking with dead people,
What,
living people,
yeah.
and that whole idea of what is a living or dead person, rather than
Right.
someone who's just happens to be in a different dimension.
Yeah, like last week where that encounter, I don't think that was human. I think that was just dark energy. That was.
Yeah.
And do you know that the pumpkin in our room turned completely black?
And
Like
that was weird
Flesh
because
of the
that
Damned.
pumpkin I checked it the day before.
Oh, well, I'll tell you more
But
about that
was weird.
next week.
That was enough of last week.
But
yes,
things
but
like
I mean,
things like Ouija boards and channeling and things
Oh
like
yeah,
that. We're
Ouija
gonna
boards.
we're
The
gonna be
whole-
talking about
the
that.
whole idea of people attempting to communicate to the old-fashioned view of the
Oh.
other side.
What's that little thing with the pencils the kids did? Charlie or whatever.
Oh, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that good of an idea because what happened last week unintentionally was so uncomfortable. I would advise against it. Just because it's otherworldly does not mean that it's divine.
Yeah. Well, we talk about that
Yeah.
next week. I mean,
So
there are
next
lots of
week,
points
but we
to
need
make.
them to send in their stories.
Yeah, any stories
Tell
that
them.
like
Tell them.
channeling, Ouija boards, messages, anything about communication to other. Let's just say, let's keep it to other dimensions.
Yes. So we need your ghost stories. Twitter. That is stories from this. It's Standing Room HRH on Twitter. Storiesfromthestandingroom.com. Please hit your keyboards now. Go to Anne at storiesfromthestandingroom.com or Chris at. We should have made you husband at Stories from the Standing Room.
Should have done, but never mind.
Chris
So-
at storiesfromthestandingroom.com.
Yeah.
Send us your stories. We're also on Pinterest. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Stories from the Standing Room. We need your ghost stories. Don't make us come out there.
Yeah.
Because
So
we might have
I'm
to.
sure there's a lot of like Ouija board stories and that type of
Well,
thing.
you know what? What I get a lot of is, I have a ton and I'll send them to you. I'll
Later.
get around to it. Get around
We
to
need
it.
your
Send them to
stories.
us now because we build shows around them. So we say thank you for
Yeah, and
joining
it
us.
helps us bring you in, which is important.
Yeah, because we need you to be a part of it because this show is all about you. So if you have sent them to another ghost podcast, it's not a big
Fine.
deal. Send them to us too.
Yeah,
We can
yeah.
play with them. We'll play with you. We're excited. Next week, communication with other worlds.
Other realms, other dimensions, whatever you want to call it.
Thank you for joining us. We love you very much.
We do. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
That's the button to push right